I used to think that the day would never come. That'll be New Order, brother.
Sounds like New Order to me.
That's right. Hey, Eric, that's
That,
you.
yep, that's Bill.
Apparently, we're here. This is
This is
Unguarded Moments.
podcast 5, I think we're on.
12,
12,
15.
could be 13 or 14. We don't know yet.
It's number
We're
3
still trying to figure
or
this stuff
4,
out.
whatever.
Hopefully
But that's
you guys-
Eric,
Yeah,
and I'm Bill,
Eric, that's Bill.
and we are Unguarded Moments.
Unguarded
and
Moments.
we are here talking about music that makes the memories.
Exactly.
We're looking forward to seeing you guys go out there and make some music memories and share some with us.
Yeah, please invite us.
Like-
we'll get you on our podcast, talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, like, comment, share, do all the
Yeah.
fun stuff that you're supposed to do on the YouTuber thing.
Yeah, send us some free CDs or something. Some free
Yeah,
music,
we'll
MP3s,
like that
whatever.
too, yeah. Any of you local bands that want to share your music with us, we'll be into that.
Right.
So, Eric, today we're going to talk about the things we liked in college, music-wise.
Yeah, we're going to continue on from our last podcast. Kind of stopped at high school, I think, didn't we?
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the things that make that college experience wonderful.
Yeah, how did college change your musical interests?
Well, here's the fun part.
Influences?
I started college in 1986, the fall of 86, and that was when the new music scene was exploding. Things
Yeah.
like REM and the Cramps and Mighty Lemon Drops and Replacements, They Might Be Giants. You know, Joy Division was still huge. The Cure was still huge. New Order. All of these songs were being played on the radio, and of course you had to find the right station to play it, that would play it. But these were all the things that I was into, and it just made well, go on. You were going to
No,
say
I was
something.
just going to say, or you could have went to your local music store if you knew what to look for.
Right.
Did your research who these bands were,
Right,
and found them.
right.
You know, on vinyl back then.
Well, and when
Or
I was
cassette.
in college, there was a music store in Grand Rapids that sold CDs like crazy, and so we would go in there every week, and I spent zillions of dollars of money that I didn't have to buy more Joy Division and more New Order and, you know, Echo and the Bunnymen and just everything that was coming out I had to have. So I have a discography of everything Echo ever put out. All the Cure CDs right up until their last 2 albums with their crap.
Yeah.
Right up to Disintegration. You know, and I've got all of the Mighty Lemon Drops. Everything REM ever put out.
You've got a good story about where you bought some of this music from.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about that. So when I was in Ireland through college, I spent a lot of time at the Virgin Record store in Dublin, Ohio, Dublin, Ireland. And at the Virgin Record store, it was like 3 floors of horrors. It was awesome. It was like City Club all over again.
Yeah.
Or was that St. Andrews Hall? Used to be
The City Club was down Detroit.
St. Andrews Hall. We used to call 3 floors of horrors because
Oh,
it was,
okay.
you know, the shelter and then this and then whatever. Anyway, but the Virgin Record store was just this huge outlet of everything you'd ever want everywhere. And I lived there for 6 months in Ireland, and I bought everything: Joy Division, New Order, Love and Rockets, The Cure. And I think there was a couple other bands, but all on their original labels. So the New Order CDs that I have are all on factory. The same with Joy Division. It was factory records. The Love and Rockets and Tones on Tail, I bought all on Beggar's Banquet, like the original stuff. And we were talking about that. The Cure, I can't remember what the name of their label was, but in America, The Cure's first album was Staring at the Sea, and in Ireland, and the European release was Standing on a Beach.
Gotcha.
And so the CD I have is Standing on a Beach, and it's got like 1 or 2 extra songs, and the American versions are different, and it's just really neat stuff. And, you know, I just kind of became this collector, and it's like, oh, this is all eclectic, cool stuff, and, it's, you know, this is wonderful. But, you know, and those types, and just listening to all this stuff all through college was just so much fun. And I had one of those, I had a 5 CD changer, and a second CD player, and a mixing board. And I remember I did this, I would take, because I had 2 Echo and the Bunnymen CDs, and I played it was the same CD.
Right.
One was the European version and one was the American version, but it had the cutter.
Oh yeah.
And it was essentially the same song. And I played them both simultaneously. And I recorded it on an audio cassette, like a regular
Yeah.
crappy old cassette. Those of you who are under 30 don't know what those are, but I had
Probably
this.
an XL.
Right. So it was TEAK.
Oh yeah. Those are
But
good too.
yeah, but I played the song simultaneously, and there was just a twinge of a difference between them. And at one point, the sound waves overlapped, and it produced an echo within the song itself
Really?
on the cassette that I recorded, and I could hear it as I'm listening to it, going, "This is." And there was a certain time where the drum beats were just like, "Drr, drr, drr, drr,"
Right.
and it was like just right next to each other, and then one caught up to the other, and it overlapped, and then it became this huge sound wave, and then there's this weird echo, crazy sound. I'm like, oh, and I of course have that tape somewhere, where I don't know,
Yeah.
and I would love to play that again.
Interesting.
But it's just fun stuff like that, and you get creative in college.
You've kept all that stuff, eh?
I have all
I
that
don't
crap.
have anything.
My wife is driving me. She's like, you got to throw all this crap away.
Yeah.
I understand, but it's part of the history of us.
Hey, you might be able to open up some kind of historic, what I don't know, some retro.
No,
Anyways,
she wants me to sell it.
I'm just kind of taking a look here. The year that the Cure formed. What year did they form?
78,
76.
76.
It's pretty. I never would have guessed that.
They really didn't do
Pretty amazing.
much until it took 4 or 5 years before they got.
Yeah, well, they were way, way ahead of their time.
Yeah. But that's when all the cool stuff started, was in the late 70s. Everybody was going like, this disco stuff sucks. We want to do something different. And there's all this rock and roll out there, and yet that's kind of cool, but we want to do something different. And you get those Lou Reed type things,
Yeah.
or all of those. Just that late 70s, early 80s up to 82 was just this time of the Pretenders
Sure.
and these different bands that were just like trying different stuff.
Oh, even remember the Velvet Underground?
Blondie.
They were way ahead of their
Yeah.
time.
Blondie was taking disco and turning it into rock.
Yeah.
And Velvet Underground was amazing.
Yeah.
And then what's his name? Sex Pistols.
Oh, yeah.
And there was that whole fringe, crazy punk stuff
Clash.
with the Sex Pistols. And the Clash was starting to come.
Yeah.
All these different things. I totally forgot about the Clash.
Yeah.
I got a whole lot of their stuff, too. But no, I was going to tell you about the Talking Heads.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were late 70s, early 80s, and they really hit the scene in the early 80s. And in college, in 86, Thursday night was party night.
Oh, yeah.
And I had, my super sound system, and I had speakers that were 3 feet tall
Right.
with a 12-inch subwoofer, and, the tweeter that was, I'm showing you right here, it's like 8
Sure.
inches tweeter, and then the mid-range.
Size of a milk carton.
Yeah, it was just big stuff. And I had these huge speakers in a tiny little dorm room on the first floor. Well, it's all guys on the first floor, all girls on the second floor, guys on the third floor.
Right.
And Thursday would come around 6 o'clock. It's 2 guys live on one side, you share a bathroom, 2 guys live on the other side. And the 4 of us were like, all right, it's party time, let's get going. And I'd go get in the shower, and I would put on Burning Down the House at full volume. And at that point, by the time the song was over, I'm out of the shower, getting dressed.
Right.
The girls would come down from upstairs going, all right, where are we going? It was one of those, it was the call,
Yeah.
that, and everybody has a little story of something like that.
Oh, no.
I remember in probably 89 or 90, we lived in this house with 6 guys, and we used to throw house parties.
Yeah.
And the cops would come and say, you guys got to break this up. This is too, it's 1 a.m. Everybody's got to get out of here. Well, we'd already made our rent money selling beer.
Sure.
So it was like, all right. And I turned the stereo up, the Yam Jam, Karen Finley. And it's the most vile, rude, obnoxious, poppy little song.
Right.
But the lyrics she had were just rude as all get out. Well, I'd turn that up, and before the song was half over, the house is cleared out. Oh, the Yam Jam's on. Time to get out.
That's funny.
It's either people were too offended by it, or it was like, oh, this is what happens when the cops come.
Right, right. I was a commuter. I didn't go away to school, but I had the opportunity to go hang out with people that did go away to school. And I didn't know you back then, but I had a friend Brendan that was equally into music like I was, and it was, you know, he had everything from Eddie Rabbitt to The Cure to
Eddie
you know,
Rabbitt.
he was really eclectic.
Yeah.
And I'd go up to University of Michigan, and I've probably moved him 10 times through dorms and houses and all that kind of stuff. But
Welcome to college.
same thing, you know, we go up for a football game or something, come back, and you know, whatever was, you know, the new Replacements album might be out, or,
Oh, yeah.
you know, or whatever it was, buy some,
Smithereens.
yeah, Smithereens,
Yeah.
buy some old stuff and put it on, and the party started, you know. But anytime I hear that music, it brings me back to those kind of memories.
And
You
the
know?
the music was always like, it was like, this is why we're having the party. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we need to make rent and we're going to sell beer at our college dorm or whatever. But we're having this party because listen to these great tunes that I've heard.
Well, there was
And it
always
was-
the people that went out and seeked out the music in the record store.
Right.
Then there was just people that came to listen to it. And there was always that little group of people that love the music that would go, hey, we're going to the record store, you know, whatever, blah, blah,
Right.
we're going, and come back with like 10 CDs.
Right, and it was this way of socializing and sharing the music that I love. I'm going to buy,
Yeah.
and come on over to my house and listen to this great music. I mean,
Yeah.
I still have 300 or 400 CDs in my house.
Yeah.
You know, you saw that huge series of crates that I brought over the
Yeah.
one day.
It was like a treasure hunt, you know.
That was most of it, but not all of it.
Right, right.
You know, but it's hey, look at all this fun stuff that I have. Let's listen to this one, and then it's the next. Oh, you got to hear this song. Oh,
Right.
listening to this one reminds me of that one. You got to hear this one too.
Yeah.
And listen, you know, and it's all that good rhythm, the good lyrics, or you know, the goofy stuff like we were talking about before with the Smiths, with that "How Soon Is Now," how the
Sure.
guitar goes, or the lyrics of you know, "Reel Around the Fountain," or you know, whatever Smith stuff you like, or whatever, you know, like I said, Mighty Lemon Drops. You said
Yeah.
you never really got into them. I love them dearly.
Yeah.
You
I'll
know,
have to listen to them.
you know, and then what was the band we were going to go see next?
Rhythm Corps.
Rhythm Corps,
Right.
the Romantics.
Coming to Detroit, December 28th.
Yeah, Rhythm
See you
Corps.
guys down there.
Yeah, 2019.
2019.
Because some of you might listen to this 5 years from now. Who knows? No, don't show up there 5 years from now.
Right. Remember 2019.
19. But no, I mean, you know, one of my buddies from high school is somehow related to Jimmy Morano's, the drummer for the Romantics. So it was like, oh yeah, we like the Romantics because the music is awesome. But I know a guy who knows a guy.
Well, you know what's funny is my buddy owned a building in Plymouth, and they were renovating it, and the HVAC guys came to fix the furnace and do whatever they had to do, run some new duct work and stuff, and come to find out that one of the guys from Romantics was a part of that crew.
Yeah,
That
and
HVAC work.
and
I'm
how-
not sure who he was, but
what year was that? Was it like
just recently, probably the
Yeah.
last 3 years.
yeah,
Yeah.
and recently, but you know, it's like the guys from Men at Work are now teachers.
Yeah,
Or one of
yeah.
them is or whatever. But you know, it's yeah, we do the fun stuff and we enjoy life and play the music and love it. And then you gotta go make money and survive.
Sure.
And sometimes the music isn't always gonna do that.
You know what's interesting, because we were talking about this earlier too, is back when we were listening to these bands back in the early 80s,
Right.
that's when some of these bands either lasted or they didn't last,
Right.
but we were able to follow them to their next band and all the lineage and all those little
Right. And we're gonna do a
roots and- yeah,
we're gonna
well,
do a good show on following some of the guys that went through all these different bands. And you know, I brought this up last time too, is you know, there's a lot of good music in Detroit and some of these guys are switching bands and back and forth and somebody's gonna hit it.
yeah, yeah,
And you're gonna look back and go, I remember when that guy was in that band and now he's in this band and that band is huge.
right, right,
Same thing happened in the 80s with a lot of these bands, and people were rolling through.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
What's next on our agenda?
well, I was going to ask you about like what was the first show you went to?
My very first show, I was 13 years old, and obviously couldn't drive, but my friend Brendan and I went to Cobo Hall in Detroit to see Aerosmith. They
I've
opened
heard.
up. I remember they opened up. The train kept rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told you this already before in a different podcast, but no, don't do that. But I told you this in a podcast that my first show was Moody Blues.
Was it Moody Blues?
I thought it was Moody Blues.
Some of your brother took you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But like in high school, college, what was the next like big show that you went to? For me, it was in high school, I went and saw Adam Ant.
Yeah.
And he had the two drum kits going, and
Really?
up and down stage. It was a great show, and it was at like the State Theater or something like that in
Yeah.
Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
I'd seen a lot of shows in the State Theater.
I think that's where my second show was either Michigan Theater or the State Theater. I don't remember which.
Right.
Could have been either one, but it was the Replacements.
Mm-hmm.
And my buddy Brendan got me into the Replacements, and I remember it was it was a dark, foggy night when we left, but I don't know what time we got there. But I think I couldn't drive, so I think I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
And some of my friends were 16. They're old enough to drive, and their parents let us take the car to go see.
What
the
year would this have
Replacements.
been, roughly?
So like 85.
Okay.
And I don't remember. It might have been "Pleased to Meet Me" album. I'd have
It
to,
would have to be.
Yeah, I think
That
so.
was 85.
Yeah. And
85, 86, give or
I
take.
remember Tommy. It was Tommy Stinson, and what was the other one? Bob Stinson. Bob Stinson had a drinking problem, and he didn't show up.
Really, you're going to talk about that on a YouTube channel that's going to go all over the world?
Yeah, I probably should.
Poor Bob.
So it was just 3 out of the 4 guys playing, and then I think somebody from the crowd jumped in and kind of took over for Bob Stinson, and then Bob Stinson finally showed up towards the end of the show. But that was my first punk rock alternative show.
Yeah.
And that was just at the time it was like kind of mind blowing because it wasn't Journey, it wasn't REO Speedwagon, it was the Replacements.
It's
And
just off the wall, man.
if any of you guys are familiar with the Replacements, you got to listen to the album "Let It Be." It's one of my favorites.
It's a good
all-time
album,
favorites.
yeah. That is a good
It's
one.
very diverse, and there's a lot of different types of songs on there. And they play anything from a hardcore punk song to like androgynous, which is just kind of a I don't know what you want to call it.
Flowing melodical
Yeah,
type
exactly,
thing,
kind of
yeah.
melody type thing.
Yeah.
But Paul Westerberg is just a great songwriter.
And Paul Westerberg's been in a number of different bands,
Yeah,
too.
and he's been around for a long time. He still
Yeah.
makes music, and his Replacements came back around. I wasn't all that interested in seeing them. They came back around a few years ago, 3, 4, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But nothing can replace that
Right.
concert.
Well, and that's the thing is at the time, that was the concert for you.
Yeah,
Like I've said to you a number of times, either in this podcast or somewhere else, because we have thousands of different discussions. We talk about this stuff all the time. But for me, it's always been that experience, that first experience. And a lot of times I don't want to go see the band that I love so much because the experience I had with them was from the albums that I've heard.
sure.
And I've set up those memories, and that's where the liking comes from.
Right.
That's where the attachment is. And then if I go to see you and you suck, well then,
You know what's funny? Just the opposite of that is I never really got into that. I've always liked the Eagles,
yeah,
and I was dating a girl when the Hell Freezes Over tour happened
Okay.
at Tiger Stadium.
yeah.
I had no interest in seeing them. I liked the Eagles. I probably would never buy anything from them.
I'm sure it would
But
have been
we
a great
went
show.
and we had front row tickets in the upper bowl, so we were overlooking the stage. It was probably 80-degree night in the summer. They opened
Right.
up with Hotel California, and I had a completely new appreciation for them. Like, what a talented band!
But
Extreme.
here's the thing: is the way you describe that to me is, I like the Eagles. They're not my favorite. I wouldn't buy their stuff. It's
Yeah.
just whatever. But what they did is they took you, because of that experience that you had live, as a lukewarm. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I enjoy the music.
Yeah,
And then that live experience pulled you into it, and then
Sure.
all of a sudden, oh my God, this was great.
Yeah.
And I've had that experience too. But to me, it's the exact opposite. When I already have this love for the band, I don't need to see them live because
Right.
it's not the experience I'm looking for.
The only thing I can say to that, and Queen was rated by Rolling Stone magazine for many, many, many years as the best live band to see. That was one of the only bands, besides Led Zeppelin, but Led Zeppelin was almost borderline before my time. I can't remember
Right.
the last tour date they had,
Right.
but it was like mid-'80s, wasn't it? Like 84,
I have
85,
no
something
idea.
like that. I can't remember. But Queen by far was the band that I missed. And
Yeah.
they stopped touring too.
I would have loved to see that
Yeah.
show.
And
And
I
again,
think-
I'm a lukewarm Queen fan. I enjoy the music.
Yeah,
When a song comes on the radio,
yeah,
Queen song, most of the time I'll listen to it all the way through.
yeah.
A lot of times I'm like, well, I've heard this. I know
Yeah,
the
it's
song.
usually Bohemian Rhapsody, or it's something
Yeah,
you've heard 1,000
you know.
times. But when you dig into some of the old albums, it's just
Right, and I don't mind digging into some of the old albums, but listening to them when I want to.
yeah, yeah.
Pull it up on the radio, whatever.
Pull out Queen News of the World. I mean, it's got some great music on there.
My
It's just-
favorite Queen was the one with the bicycles on the front.
Yeah,
I can't remember which one that is.
the Fat Bottom Girls one.
Fat Bottom
Yeah.
Girls one. Yeah, they're just great songs, just and good liner notes,
Yeah,
and it was just a great album. And I'm sure it would have been a great show to see when they did that tour.
yeah. Did you happen to see the movie?
I have not. My son saw the movie. Now he's a Queen fan.
I saw the movie. I'm a movie critic. It's either good or it's bad.
Right.
It's either in black or white with movies.
Right.
I expected more, but I think they did a pretty good job of showing
Well,
who Freddie Mercury was,
and they threw some fiction in there too.
yeah. I heard it wasn't quite chronologically correct, and they skipped around a little bit.
But it doesn't have to be.
Right.
Because again, it's not. The movie wasn't. It's not a documentary.
yeah, yeah,
It wasn't
That's what I was
Spinal.
kinda hoping
It
for.
wasn't Spinal Tap.
yeah,
The movie was an entertainment piece to tell you about the band.
yeah, yeah,
And from what I've heard, it's been wonderful.
yeah.
It
yeah.
tells you about the band, and it hits the highlights. It does the stuff. You know what? Go into a movie, entertain me.
Right,
Let the
right.
monkeys dance for me for 2 hours.
Sure,
I'm here to suspend reality.
right.
And that brings me to, and we weren't going to talk about this, but we're going to do it now anyway. My favorite music movies.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about that.
I'm going to tell you because I know you don't.
yeah.
You're not prepared
I'm
for
not,
this.
I'm not a movie buff, but Bill is, and we'll let him get some time in and talk about his favorite movies.
I know you're not a movie buff, and I know you're not prepared for this, but by far, let's see. I got 1, 2, 3, 4,
Make sure
5,
and
6.
tell our listeners why you like these movies. Give
Why-
a little background or something.
Why do I like these movies?
Yeah, I mean, what songs were in the movies, and maybe how it influenced you or whatever.
All right. Well,
You know,
in
throw
no
some
par-
interesting
in no particular
tidbits in
order, Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, never saw it, but
The only reason I love the movie is because me and my high school buddies would go to the theater one Saturday a month and watch the movie
yeah,
and see all the craziness that goes on with
Yeah.
the movie. Because it's not a movie, it's an experience.
right. I heard that before.
You can't watch, if you watch Rocky Horror Picture Show in your living room,
I've tried.
it's a
I've-
yawn fest.
Right.
The music is nice and it's fun. There's some good parts to it. I believe Meatloaf is in the movie.
Yeah.
Some of the, the music is okay. But in the theater with a bunch of fans who are crazy about the movie, and when they say it's time for the wedding, a toast, and then people throw toast.
Yeah.
And at the wedding, then there's the rice that gets thrown. People throw crap. In
Right.
the theater's a sty at the end. But it's this whole experience of just all these other people are around me, and we're just having fun, and we're watching
Yeah.
this dumb, stupid movie about this freak, vampire transvestite from Transylvania.
Yeah. That's what makes it interesting.
But it's a great show, and
Yeah.
it's fun as heck. That's on my top fun movies to see with the right people.
Right.
And I'm a big fan of Eddie and the Cruisers. Bless
Excuse me.
you. God bless you. Eddie and the Cruisers, first movie and the second movie. A lot of people are like, well, the second movie sucked ass. Well, to me, the best part of the second movie is when Eddie doesn't want to be found. And yet he sees this band and he recognizes some talent, and he goes and he talks to the guys afterwards and says, you need to lose that guy because your guitarist is hitting it the wrong way, that, and the other. And the band, the lead singer of the band, who thinks he's all this and that, says, oh yeah? Well, you show me something. Now, this is Eddie and the Cruisers, and Eddie was this great 50s star.
Right.
And now this is the late 80s, and here he is, working as a factory worker under a different name in a different country, and he still plays guitar.
Right.
The way guitar should be played. And he gets up there, and he says to the band, 12-bar rhythm and blues. And they start something, and he just starts this guitar, and it's like, and just I can't even reproduce it with my mouth. It's just ridiculous.
Right.
And Michael Parra plays that part so well.
Yep.
And I just love watching him get up there and in your face, I know how to play guitar, and here's how you play it. And it's this really good riff, and the guys supporting him play just your basic rhythm and blues stuff, and he's throwing out this great riff. It's just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. And that's just, and I like the story. It's a fun little take me away, and here's this creative, goofy story about a band that did this, and then something happened, and then they stopped playing.
Right.
And Eddie dies, but Eddie didn't die, and then he comes back in Eddie 2, and then at the end of the movie, I'm weepy because, here he is in front of a stadium playing I'm Eddie, and
I wept in front of Steel Magnolias.
I, I cry at all sorts of movies. My kids give me a hard time. It's hilarious. I think by far my favorite movie on the planet.
I know which one it is.
I'm not going to tell you that one.
All right.
Another movie that I like, Streets of Fire. Since we were talking about
We were
Michael,
some of it earlier.
yeah, we were talking about Michael Parra here with Eddie and the Cruisers, but Streets of Fire isn't necessarily all music. It's a crappy movie, but the music is okay. It's a rock and roll fable, as they sell it. But there's some really songs that you'll remember, and you go, "Oh, I remember that song from something." But it's my favorite movie because when I worked at this video store in high school,